welcome to the September meeting of the Historic Preservation Board. I'm going to go ahead and open the meeting at 6:30 p.m. First, we'll get started with roll call. Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Chair Alcorn,
Present.
Vice Chair Murib Steele, Commissioner Field,
Present.
Commissioner Fisher,
Present.
Commissioner Henderson,
Present.
Commissioner Honey, Commissioner Ritter,
Present.
Commissioner Smith.
Present.
With Vice Chair Murib absent, Commissioner Smith moves into a voting position. Chair, we have quorum.
All right, and next we'll move on to the Pledge of Allegiance. If everyone wants to stand and join me. All right, moving right through this, we'll just approve the agenda next. Do any board members have changes to the agenda? Okay, seeing none, the agenda is approved. And then let's go ahead and approve the meeting minutes from the August meeting. Does anybody want to call for a motion?
I'll move to approve.
Second.
Is that
Right.
Henderson?
Henderson, yeah.
It doesn't seem to be receiving.
How about a thumbs up, thumbs down?
The vote is 7 in favor. The motion carries.
All right, so let's move along to the public comment section. Have a little blurb here. If you wish to address the board under public comment, please sign in on the public speaker form before the call to order for this meeting. Public comment is an opportunity to express opinions regarding issues that are not a part of public hearings on tonight's agenda. A separate opportunity will be provided for comment for any public hearing. Each speaker is limited to 3 minutes. We expect comments to be civil. Disrespectful or disruptive behavior will not be tolerated. The board is not authorized under the Colorado Opens Meeting Law to discuss, comment, or take action at this meeting on any issue raised by public comment that is not part of tonight's agenda. And with all that being said, we had no one sign in. But just to make sure, does anybody want to put in a public comment? Okay. Yeah. Okay, we have no general business tonight, so we will move along to the public hearing. This item is HPC Resolution 06-2024, approving a certificate of appropriateness for the building located at 2299 West Main Street. Sarah, you want to get us started?
Absolutely. Great. Okay. Yep, so COA tonight is for an expansion and modification of existing patio structure at 2299 West Main Street, known as Grand Station Restaurant. This is location, just looking, top right there is from Main Street, and then the side of the building from Sycamore, and then just in plan view. So for the process, COA is obviously meant to review those exterior changes to make sure historic character is preserved. It was noticed under our public hearing process. And then, of course, the final determination from the HBC is approve with conditions, or denial. Quick overview, just the proposed changes, approval criteria and staff recommendation. One thing that I did note is not on there is just some of the discussion, having a little bit more discussion, as was noted in the staff report. So the baseline kind of proposed changes, looking at expanding that existing patio structure, and having it be predominantly a steel structure with folding glass wall panels. The addition would be adding about 271 square feet for a total of this structure being 764 square feet, with the height roughly at about 10 foot 5 3/8 inches. The vinyl roll-up curtain that is there now will be replaced with those folding glass wall panels that fold in a kind of an accordion manner. And then also we'll be on that kind of east side putting in a concrete curb wall to mitigate some of the drainage and water drainage issues. So here's that south elevation from Main Street. As you can see, the existing building is on the west side, and then the glass kind of and steel structure there on the east. The two far east sections, those are what's existing, and then that kind of the doorway and then that other kind of middle section there is what would be added in addition to the awnings, as well as kind of a parapet wall that the awnings will sit on. Here's that east elevation, and then showing also that concrete curb and for the drainage, as well as you can see the roof, the water also will drain off this side. Looking at the west elevation, it's predominantly the existing building, but as you can see kind of on that south side, the little bit of the structure does project past the building. And then this is one of the 3D renderings of it. And another kind of oblique view. The fences, I believe I noted this in the staff report. We don't look at fences for C of As, so that's not part of this application or part of the kind of approval. So one of the things that we wanted to kind of make note of and discuss is the remaining historic integrity. This is a contributing building in the historic district, but in doing the analysis, have found that a lot of the historic integrity has been lost over the years. There's been a number of changes, which I'll go through some of those pictures. So the analysis was taken from the standpoint of the integrity of the building is pretty much low to non-existent. So that's kind of where those recommendations came from. And then the alternate recommendation, which I'll note here later, would be an alternate kind of recommendation if the HBC considers the building to have a higher level of integrity. So these first two images are 1928 roughly and around 1957, so kind of what it originally looked like, and it was a gas station. These are all just kind of Google Street image views over the years. So this is from 2007. It is pretty close in appearance to the 1997 survey, so not too many changes had taken place between that time. But as you can see, this next one, which was from about 2012, they did end up putting in kind of that, you see the addition a little bit, that kind of half wall behind the umbrellas, or the half bar window, apologies. That kind of got rid of that slanted connector. And then kind of moving through 2014, again, that's when the kind of first, at least image on Google of the patio structure was in place. This one below it is, you start to see some of the rooftop equipment that has gone in. And then the next one looking at kind of that rooftop equipment being screened. And then the bottom one is what it currently looks like today. So a lot of the changes, a fair number of changes have happened. Originally, this building was two separate buildings. Over time, it was connected. And then after the survey, it was further changed with that kind of patio structure added on, as well as that kind of bar window being an addition as well. So the only really remaining portions that are visible is kind of the form of the filling station with that hipped roof, and then the kind of those two main piers with the detail that used to have were the mounting points for lights. So that's kind of all that's remaining. So staff felt that there was a relatively low amount of integrity, and the one condition on the initial recommendation was just to set back the structure from being adjacent to the front wall and make it adjacent to that east side, just to maintain that symmetry that's pretty evident. So criteria, we looked at Secretary of Interior standards, the design guidelines, as well as the ULUC criteria. So for the recommendation based on the integrity being very low, again, was to recommend approval, but with the condition that we shift, that the west wall of the addition that structure is shifted to where it is adjacent to the east side of the kind of filled-in filling station, as opposed to on that front wall, just to kind of maintain the symmetry of what is the remaining kind of historic fabric of the building. And so that was that kind of condition. And then should the HPC determine that there is enough level of integrity, would recommend a greater offset or setback of that kind of entrance vestibule area to kind of provide that separation in the mass of the two structures. The second condition may not actually be pertinent if that is offset. Sorry about that. That was from the first one. Any questions or clarifications on that?
Forgive me, could you possibly show on one of the diagrams what you're recommending be set back? I don't completely understand what you're describing.
Yeah, and actually, I think I can pull it up from the. So this should the level of integrity be low, that kind of first approval and condition. This is, what I mean is this support right now is along that south side, that front elevation, and recommending to kind of essentially have that support be adjacent to the building here as opposed to on the front to maintain the full symmetry of that front facade, since it's pretty much the only remaining kind of historic feature of the building. Now, if the commission found that there is not enough, or there is more integrity, and they would like to kind of do the setback, it would be something like pulling it more over here or more kind of back for that recommendation, this kind of whole entrance part of it, just pulling it away from the existing building some.
I'm sorry, can you tell us again, so where would you recommend it being pulled back to if we determine that there's more integrity?
I don't have a specific spot in mind, but it would just be something that would kind of, let me pull back up, sorry. Let me pull the, so it would be to kind of pull this portion kind of either back, to kind of a little bit of a cutout here, and so maybe the door is set back here or over there, but to just kind of take it out from under that, kind of how it sits up under and right next to the
So-
building, kind of have it
so
set back
flush-
a little bit, just have a
so
little bit
flush
more
with the wall.
separation. Mhm. So it may still be enclosed all the way, but it has that little bit of setback. And I apologize for not mentioning these, it is in line with the current structure. So the current patio structure that's there sits this far out in front of the building currently, and so they've just extended it to the wall. Right, it could provide some of that alleviation.
All right, any other questions for Sarah? Okay, would the applicant like to come up and present?
Hello, good evening. Ladies and gentlemen of the board and the Littleton community, my name is Eric Hyatt, and my wife and I purchased Grand Station from the previous owner a year ago. We just celebrated our one-year anniversary. Pretty excited about that. And we've been Littleton residents for the last 5 years. We live just 5 minutes down the road, and we are thrilled when the opportunity became available for us to own a business on Main Street downtown. We were really excited. And It's been a pleasure to welcome our friends and neighbors into our business and our restaurant, offer them a good meal with the level of hospitality that we became known for. And it's been an honor to host give back nights there with schools. For our 3 and 5-year-old are going through the school system, so we're working with the different schools in Littleton to give back to them as well, and it's nice that our restaurant is able to accommodate that. And it's been a really great experience for us to get to know our fellow merchant neighbors, the decision makers in this community who have incredible vision for inviting and vibrant downtown core. It's been really cool for us to be a part of that. We come before you today after months of thoughtful collaboration with John and Brad over here, our architects, respectfully asked to grant our request to make the proposed changes to the front of Grand Station. We believe these changes will be a value add for the city and allow Grand Station to operate as a truly functional restaurant, because right now there's many components that are really difficult to operate under. And if you ever dine with us, and you're most likely puzzled when you came into the restaurant and found yourself in the middle of the kitchen and saying, almost several times a day, we get new customers that come in and ask, are we in the right place? And I say if I had $1 for every time I heard that, I would be retired already, so this happens often. Now, while people love eating on our covered patio during the summer, we are challenged immensely with keeping the flies at bay. All of our windows are open. It supports that open air environment. With these proposed changes, we'll be able to combat that, able to install screens also that will help mitigate this problem while still maintaining that al fresco dining experience that our guests have come to really enjoy there. Moreover, we are met with significant hardship in the cooler and wetter months. In the current form of the patio is right now, we drastically lose, I would say, 3/5 of our restaurant size. So we're operating with only 2/5 of our restaurant seating capacity. Now, the vining, aging sidewalls, there's rips and tears in them and spaces. They're going to have to be replaced no matter what. The existing drainage plane, the restaurant sits back and a little bit farther down from the curb line, so any moisture that's coming in onto that property flows to the restaurant. And, with the cold temperatures and snow, which are inevitable and it's rapidly approaching, we're going to be losing a lot of that seating. So the combination of high rents on Main Street, the relentless increase of cost of goods and labor that's going up, it's unsustainable to lose more than half of our revenue to those elements. And so we have the utmost respect for this commission and are in full support of maintaining the historic character of the downtown district, and so do we wish to preserve the remaining elements of Summer Oil, the history of what of that building was, and we did a lot of research ourselves and saw how it's changed over the years. And with that said, in a business of notoriously thin margins, these changes, they're critical to ensure the continued operations of Grand Station in a way that is financially feasible for our family. And I also feel that our proposal will make a much more enjoyable experience for our guests and a better working conditions for our staff as well. Right now, they're out there, under an umbrella in the sun and in the elements, and so we're trying to fix that component of it. So I would like to close by thanking each of you for your time and your consideration tonight, and for the very important work that you guys do to protect the things that make Littleton such a special place to live and work. So, thank you.
Thank you. Does the board have any questions for the applicant or their architects?
I have a question. I don't know if you were listening earlier to the presentation from staff. They had a recommendation that involves setting back the addition slightly. Would you be amenable to
Absolutely.
those changes? Okay. All right. I was just curious.
Yeah.
Well, would you introduce Brad? Brad,
Overall, I think it looks very nice. If you're gonna do any setbacks, I think really you might only have to do it in the area where the vestibule is. So everything else, as far as I'm concerned, could stay exactly where it is. But I think by moving that front wall back, maybe a foot to a foot and a half back from the corner of the existing building, will still give you that connection that they refer to in the guidelines and the National Park Service recommendation. So again, it would only be that area, I don't know how wide that is, maybe 6 feet, where if you, instead of making the whole addition all along the front and then back again, if you only work with that vestibule area and pull that back, I think you can make a connection between sort of the old and the new, and then go out to your full dining area. Can I?
Yeah. Can I introduce my esteemed architects?
Yes, absolutely. And Robert, I'm sorry, if you could turn on your microphone and just speak into the microphone, just so everybody can hear.
I'm sorry.
All
Can you
right.
hear me?
And I'll introduce Brad. And he's with MA Architects, who's, they've worked with a number of projects around downtown Littleton as well. And so we've actually discussed the detail that you're talking about at length today. And they can speak to that in accordance and probably satisfy the concern that
Is
you
it
may
okay
have.
if I point it, can I point it out?
Sure.
Yeah.
You can reach that high?
Just if you speak, if it just needs to be in the microphone. But I think, is that okay for Robert to point?
It is, but for the record, he has to.
And then come back and say what he's pointing at? Okay.
Yes.
It's really the corner here, 5'6", where it says exit. If you took that wall and moved it back to where the existing corner of the building is, yeah, where the cursor is, I would say maybe 1'6", 18 inches or whatever, and then located that door at that location, I think that could make the transition between, that thereafter and the difference of the existing building and the new. And then, once you pass that, just come back out to where you were along the front.
Yeah, would you like to talk about it?
And then, sorry, Robert, if you could just say that back into the microphone for the record.
Come on up.
Sorry.
Again, that's my only suggestion. I think everything looks great. I think the drawings really look nice. It's the first set of drawings I've seen that
Thank you.
are well put together. But on the, on the transition, again, which the code calls for the, setback of the new against the existing building. I think if you just did what I suggest and took that line there, the front line, and just move it back about a foot or so from there and locate your entry door, I think that would make a good transition.
Good evening. My name is Brad Eichman. I'm with MA Architects. I'd like to elaborate a little bit further on what Eric mentioned, as well as discussing certain aspects of the project that we have just discovered from our documents that Sarah pointed out. Can you go to that figure 16? I just want to make sure we're understanding and are very clear on a couple of these areas. And I think before we go to figure 16, Sarah, if you could go to the site plan, excuse me, that'd be drawing sheet 3 of the drawing packet at the beginning of the set. Okay. So just a real quick overview of the certain items in the drawing set. This is the existing site plan, what you're seeing. Important to remember that the area to the right, lower right, is the existing patio, the existing covered patio with the soft vinyl enclosure around that, and then the patio inset there. And the next sheet, Sarah, if you could go to sheet 5, excuse me, yeah, sheet 5, or better yet, sheet 6. That'll show everything we need to look at there. There you go. Okay. All right. So what we're seeing here is the continuation of the line of the covered patio from the right to the left, all the way through to the corner. And the corner, as Sarah pointed out, is currently to the west of that historic corner. The most important aspect of the project in our mind is the left side of the building. That's the historic portion that we're focused in on. And what we wanted to achieve by having this design is providing a solution to one of the design standards in the Littleton Design Standards, where it talks about the commercial frontages along Main Street and the primary facade of the buildings. We felt that what we have shown is a good response to that, because it provides for the unity of the facade for this building on the right 2/3 of the project. That is somewhat consistent with the rhythm established for the other buildings as you're going westward along Main Street. That's where that primary build-to setback, it's not a prescribed setback, but practically speaking, that's where the line of the buildings are. And so we wanted to provide for the unity of the design by not having things so disjointed the way they are currently. Okay, the way they are currently, as you recall from the existing the existing site plan is that inset patio. You know, you have the left portion forward, you have the rear portion where the bar is. Further back, we have the patio covered to the lower right. A little disjointed. So providing that continuity and the alignment, the way we have it there, we felt did a good job of respecting the historic structure to the left, as well as providing for the program needs for the owner, in that it has a weather-tight vestibule, which is going to be needed to meet the energy code requirements, and it still allows for a circulation as you go into the restaurant from the vestibule to turn and be in the restaurant at that point. So if we were to cut back, this was really something that we really, quite frankly, never really considered in its final form because of the program needs and because of the Littleton Design Standards. So we feel that if we get rid of that vestibule, it's going to be detrimental twofold, mainly because of the energy requirements, and it's gonna really, as you can see, it would cut too far back into the space where the bar is. So we feel like this is really the best solution that respects the historic building as well as provides for the needs for the owner. So I hope that does a good job of explaining kind of what we were looking at from a program standpoint, as well as trying to be sensitive to the historic structure and the Littleton Design Standards. I'd be happy to answer any further questions. I know John would also like to speak to the project. Any questions?
Can I just make one point? I believe there was a question earlier as to if the applicant was okay with the setback. And just to clarify, you're okay with that off the first recommendation of saying kind of moving this structure to just being adjacent to that corner?
Yeah,
You guys
yeah.
are amenable for that, but the setback would be more difficult, is what you're saying? I just want to
Yeah,
clarify.
correct. Yeah,
Okay.
we're kind of mixing two different discussion points
Yeah.
here. What Sarah described on her recommended, and it's part of the motion with condition, is that basically what you're seeing here, the building would be essentially the same, with the exception of that 5.5-foot west wall right there. It would just slide slightly to the east so that it respects the corner of the historic building. And it is not in front of it. It's not proud of that corner, but it's just slightly to the right of that. We would still have the vestibule and essentially the same design that you're looking at in the drawings. So we would not be in favor of losing the vestibule.
So, am I understanding correctly, and forgive me if I'm not, but under, Sarah, under the recommendation, sliding this wall of the, I guess, the Main Street closest wall of the vestibule, sliding it in this direction a little bit, that'll leave this keyhole slot, right, between the two buildings?
It'd be pretty tight.
Yeah.
We'd have a weather-tight corner there, but you'd see that visible, you'd see the actual hard line masonry corner.
And connect the dots for me. The reason why we're recommending is so that visually there's a separation. Is that the point? Is that
Yeah, so essentially, the integrity of the building over time has been predominantly lost, the historic integrity of it. So the recommendation would be to kind of recognize that, but say, this is the portion that is historic that does remain. So let's not have the addition kind of be directly in front of it. Like, I know
get
it's
it.
only a 4-inch kind of margin, but just offsetting it a little bit preserves the symmetry that is there, that's been part of the design, and just kind of gives a little bit of deference to it. But because the building has lost so much integrity, that's why we're only, staff
Right.
only recommended that.
it's a marginal, yeah.
Yes,
I get
it's
it.
minimal, but it kind of just highlights it a little bit and is a simpler kind of condition to be able to reach.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Can you still get
Thank-
that turnaround in there? Can you still get the 5-foot radius turnaround by doing that?
I didn't understand the question, I'm sorry.
He's asking.
I'm
about
sorry.
the
Can you still get the
accessibility.
5-foot turnaround that you show in your drawings by bringing that wall in?
Can it still be
Oh, yeah,
maintained?
we would make that adjustment for the next wall to the east in that vestibule. That would probably adjust slightly
Oh,
as
okay.
well, a couple
All right.
inches, so we maintain the 5-foot turning radius inside that,
Got it.
inside
For
the vestibule.
ADA standards?
Right, right, yeah. Thank you.
Hi, I just want to wrap up a few comments. My name is John Matthews. I'm the principal with MA Architects. We have completed a number of historic projects throughout the metro area with the city of Denver, Denver's Landmark Commission on the 16th Street Mall, Old Town Arvada in their historic district, excuse me, Boulder, and also in downtown Littleton, we've renovated the whole block between Curtis and Nevada, the Lilly Building, the Bachelette Building, the old bank building, and then around the corner to Kate's Wine Bar. So we truly understand and appreciate the importance of historic buildings and maintaining historic buildings to the character of downtown Littleton. I also sit on the LDDA board. I'm a member of that and very involved in what's going to be happening on Main Street and believe strongly in the historic character of downtown Littleton as being a really important component. This building, as you can see, is kind of a mixed bag. I mean, it's been added on to and unfortunately cobbled up a little bit over the years with that addition of that big steel canopy out to the east. And so when Eric and Rachel came to us and talked about the importance of expanding the Four Seasons dining and truly making it a Four Seasons dining room and changing the entrance to the restaurant, because if you've been there, you guys all know how you have to funnel through basically the kitchen area past the restrooms. And so what we're really attempting to do, it's kind of a blend of both function and design and looking at the historic character of this building and balancing it with the design guidelines of downtown Littleton and maintaining a predominant street frontage along the streetscape, which is so important. And if you look at the Little Town building to the west, I would argue that our line that we've created, our predominant line along Main Street, is pretty much in alignment with the Little Town building to the west. So again, I think we have to balance a little bit. This is truly not an historic building by definition. Now, does it add to the character of the district? Absolutely. Is there history? Absolutely. And so when we started looking at everything, we thought the most important component was maintaining the integrity of the existing building on the southwest corner in the eave, the roof line, so we could maintain that completed hipped roof form and maintain the architectural elements and slide this new enclosure kind of in next to it. But if you look at the height of the enclosure, you know, one of the things we're really doing is unifying the whole front facade of this building because it's pretty cobbled up right now. So if you look at the front rendering, if you could just turn to that, please, Sarah. You can see how we've slid this thing underneath the existing eave. And again, the functionality of creating a new entryway into the restaurant that meets both the energy code and the ADA requirements. And if we push that thing in 5.5 feet, we will not have enough room in front of that bar. I mean, it just doesn't work functionally. So we're trying to balance that with in creating this new outdoor dining along Main Street and activating the street. And so we like the idea of cleaning up with a new fascia because that current steel structure to the east is just kind of an exposed slope steel frame. What we're doing is creating a new horizontal parapet line that we can attach these awnings to and creating a very unified, balanced structure, which by the way is going to be very transparent, so you're going to be able to see through that to some of the older components around the bar and just create a good, strong, unified approach. Cal Marib, who owns the building, is very much in support of this design. And we just felt that by creating another break in the facade at the vestibule area would just be, it's too small of a footprint. It would just be somewhat too busy and not truly unified with the facade to the street. We did talk to Sarah this afternoon because we were looking for clarification on the staff report comments. And we are in favor of looking at tucking the vestibule in behind the corner so that we can truly, you know, express that corner. But I would argue that if you flushed a steel frame with the building, it would further diminish. I think there needs to be some kind of offset. And we don't really truly have room to move it back. And we felt that moving it forward solved the problem functionality with the ADA and the main entrance and created a nice entry area for the restaurant and still gave him good seating. If you go to the floor plan, good seating, you know, in the bar area as well, kind of staging, waiting area, and seating out in front of the bar area that's relatively uninterrupted, that opens out onto the street. So anyway, those are my thoughts. I just wanted to communicate that to you. I do feel like we could slide that west wall of the vestibule in slightly and tuck it behind that corner. And I think, you know, thereby creating a strong, vertical line of that southeast corner of that existing historic building component, if you will. So anyway, those are my thoughts, and I hope that helps kind of shed a little more understanding on what, you know, we were dealing with as design professionals and what the overall objective was. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Just making sure, does anybody have any more questions before we move to public comment?
Thank you. I do have a question. I want to understand, you know, your requirement for a separation, the design guidelines call for that. And you're talking about 4 inches, 5 inches?
So the recommendation to have the 4 or 5 inches is just the width of the kind of vertical structure is what I mean by like that small it'll be moving. The reason I made that recommendation is because it didn't, from analysis, didn't seem like there was enough integrity. So therefore, the guidelines wouldn't necessarily apply because it isn't offsetting from a building that's historically has high level of integrity and significance. Now, if the HBC decides that it does meet the standard for a high enough level of integrity, then yes, that is where the recommendation kind of comes in to say, let's offset or set back to meet our guidelines. So that's where that division is. Does that kind of
Okay,
clarify, Mud?
and 4 to 5 inches, can you hold that up with your hands? It's not much.
Right, and so that's what we're saying, what I'm trying to say is the condition was placed because it is a minimal change. It does kind of still highlight the front facade, maintain it, but by saying that it does not have a high level of integrity, we can't necessarily hold it to the same standard of something that does have a high level of integrity. So it is a minimal change, but it just kind of keeps it from that front facade from being obstructed at all. Obviously, it will be adjacent, so it still has that kind of close proximity, but it's just a minor shift for that kind of primary recommendation.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and open up the public comment portion of the hearing. Wendy, do we have a sign-in sheet?
State the time, and she gave you the sign-in sheet.
Sorry. So the public comment portion, I'm going to open it at 7:11. I do not have anyone on the sign-in sheet, but to make sure, is there anyone who'd like to come up? Come on up, Pam.
Hi, my name is Pam Chadbourne. I live a block and a half from here and close to downtown, and I would vote against this. I don't find that it meets the criteria, and I think the recommendation is the 4 to 5 inches is remarkably small. I mean, I'm shocked. At least I would expect making this addition level with the front of the existing structure. So criteria 3, 4, and 5 all end up with looking at the architectural features of a historic landmark or a property in a historic district. They are relative to the historic district. This destroys its place in the historic district. This was a small gas station with a parking area. Parking in the open parking area is vital to this theme, this time period, both the 1890s, 1920s, and the 1950s. Parking in that open space there is part of the design of the district. This is in the right-of-way, and it's right in the entry. You can't get around this property, and it's right there. So these 3 criteria alone, I would be happy to, I would have to vote no. This adversely affects the special character or historical, architectural, or aesthetic interest or value of a property in a historic district. It affects the whole district. It doesn't fit. And I'm just going to mention, this is death by about 3 cuts. They didn't even take 1,000 or 100 or 50. It's just 3. It was a gas station, and then it was modified. And then Columbine Valley, oh, poor Columbine Valley had to move for a while. They're a country club, and so they came and changed and said, gee, we can't really do our restaurant that we want, but, it would be good enough. And so then Station came in and, we'd like to do more, but we can only do this, and they kind of struggled along. And now it's like, well, let's plunge the final dagger in. It took, 4 daggers over 40 years. And then we'll kill it. Well, the whole district suffers. And again, my concern is that I feel in 20, 25 years, when does the whole district lose integrity? I feel that exactly what we heard, well, the building has no integrity, so we can pretty much do what we want. When does it become the district loses integrity? And so let's quit messing with it and just let the district go. When does that happen, Commission? Because that's what I'm worried about. This little building, the scale and the character of it and its function in, our old standards and guidelines 20 years ago talked about the character of this little gas station right there and how that was important to our Main Street district. And look what's happening today. I would vote against this. I think destroys the character of the district. Thanks.
Thank you, Pam. Any other public comments? Okay, I'm going to close the public comment portion of the public hearing at 7:14. And now it is time for us to discuss as a board. Would anybody like to make?
Actually, you have to make a motion and then you can discuss.
Yes. Would anybody like to make a motion in a second?
I'll move that we approve HPC Resolution 06-2024 as first evaluated by staff that the building doesn't have enough historical integrity to require adherence to the guidelines, and with the one recommendation of adjusting that post about 4 feet, or 4 inches, excuse me.
Second.
Okay. So I think the first thing that we need to discuss is the integrity. So what are your thoughts on the building and the level of its integrity?
I think the only thing that I'd really like to save would be the corner. And I just don't think 4 inches does anything to save that vertical line. I mean, if it could come more, maybe a foot, and then return a little bit further back, so that those two vertical, portions on the existing building at least read that way. But to just take that wall and slide it into the corner, I just think the corner's lost. That would be my only, I mean, I understand the need, the vestibule. I think it could work at another location, but that's neither here nor there. But it's just that corner, because when you look back at the photos, even of the existing gas station, it had those big sort of columns there, and to kind of lose that look, I realize that it's not, it's lost a lot of its integrity, but I think it's important to at least read those corners.
But don't you think that that corner would be readable if it were set apart in the way that we're describing, where it's clear that you're looking at the historic building, and then what's next to it is a contemporary addition that's actually moved over by a visible separation? I mean, I guess it's obvious the answer is, in your position, it's no, right? But I mean, you can see the column, is I guess what I'm saying.
Fully, yeah.
What column are you talking about?
Well,
The column you're trying to.
The eastern column.
Here where the sconce is? Yeah, I mean.
Yeah, a little bit more to the line right there to the right.
Jason, can you come back to your microphone?
Sure.
Thank you.
I think,
It's just a detail, it's not a major component. I'm just trying to get that corner to read a little bit better, that's all. Not the end of the world.
Robert, I think you're making a really nice point about if the building has lost much of its integrity, then what is our responsibility to maintain what it still has? And does it seem like we're honoring that? Would be a really interesting question. I like the idea of at least moving it that 4 inches. And something about the roof line seems to be part of the way that those pillars are really set off, is the corner of the roof and then inset to those two pillars. And with the new addition proposal being snugged up under the roof, very practical, but it does disrupt visually that is its own unique symmetrical entity right there.
Its own corner of the gas station.
And it's the historical corner. So I'm of two minds of it.
Well, I would say that this building has lost a lot of its integrity, but it certainly hasn't lost all of its integrity. The building was a gas station, but one of the things that was really important about the gas station was that it was supposedly fireproof. It's a concrete structure, and it has quite elaborate decoration on it with the sconces and all of that. But the idea of the fireproof gas station and structure, you know, it's an interesting detail, and it's an important detail. And it really speaks to Main Street and our city and how it really evolved because of the automobile. And you know, that's an important part of our history, and it's that this structure, when you look at it from the west and south, it does tell that story. It does read as a historic structure. So I think it has a little bit more integrity than none. And we all lose a little integrity from time to time, but we have a little left. And I do like the idea of preserving it. I think this is very attractive, what I'm seeing, but I would like to see some more definition and setback.
Yeah, I don't have a lot to add separate from what Kim said, other than I think looking at it from the, what is that, from the southwest, that corner, it still identifies as a gas station in the front. I mean, the roof and the structure of, you know, the hips and the gables on the roof still identify as gas station to me. You know, initially I thought, well, without that vestibule, with the kind of cutout or the notch that's present now, I mean, you can kind of see where the courtyard was for the cars. I don't advocate keeping the notch. I mean, I get that that's not consistent with what you're trying to do, but I think making sure that corner, the southeast corner, is still visible and identifiable as a corner right there is important.
I was going to say, I agree with both of your points. I think those are all valid, and I agree that we should have a little bit of separation between the new structure and that corner. We do have to commit. Oh, comment. No, we do have to make a choice, though. No, unless you want to say, even if you agree or disagree, that's fine too.
I would just ask for clarification from all three of you who seem to be in agreement. By stating that you want to see the definition of that right corner, are you agreeing with staff recommendation? Are you disagreeing with staff recommendation? It's unclear to me.
I think at this point, I'm not saying I agree or disagree. I'm just pointing, I mean, we're talking about integrity of the building and what is remaining and what isn't. And my feeling is there is still some integrity of the original building as a gas station, not necessarily when it was the Kirby vacuum store, but as the gas station. And that's the extent of the comments I've made so far.
I mean, I personally am persuaded that that there is integrity, and we're talking about figuring out how to approve and give appropriateness to a design that recognizes that integrity. Otherwise, obviously, we wouldn't be having this conversation. There's obviously some. I am persuaded that as proposed or as staff recommends the slight modification, that, to me, to my eyes, that corner exists. I can see it. I can see it as clear as day. It's got a sconce on it, you know. And so, to me, it's almost an academic question. But if what's necessary for the community to recognize that that's a corner, I'm fine with suggesting that there be an offset the length of a G.I. Joe figure. I mean, that's fine.
Do you happen to have a G.I. Joe figure with you that we could see?
I do wonder from the standpoint of the business and its functionality. If we did propose that there needed to be more definition between the original building and this new, how would that impact the functionality of the space? Because this is a live business, and per the floor plans for a hostess station and all of the seating, et cetera. So adjusting it too much could impact the way that business is able to function. I don't know.
Yeah, and I think that's why we're talking about just the kind of visual setback, not necessarily a functional.
The change in the vestibule.
I think it's important to be clear, because Robert had talked a lot at the very beginning about completely changing the vestibule, but that's not the motion on the table right now, and that's not the staff recommendation. The vestibule isn't in any material way changing with the motion and the staff recommendation. Right?
Well, now the wall is moving over.
Well, 4 inches.
Yeah, but that creates twice as much material, because you're creating a channel down the middle, right?
Only to flush up the building.
Okay.
And then the other edge of the vestibule would then move over the same amount that we ask for it to move, so it'll still be the same size.
I hate to say this, but maybe we need to see a revised design, if that's the case. Because right now, we're all working off of CAD drawings in our heads, and I don't trust mine.
I don't know if I trust mine either. I have a strong sense the mouse pointer is very good to help demonstrate. And in my mind's eye, I'm still wondering if that will create enough differentiation to really feel like the corner's set off, to respect the integrity of that older part of the building. I think so, and it is interesting to think about that it's a very small amount of space, but
I think one kind of point, if I may interrupt, sorry, to kind of help with this decision is that first, I think you kind of mentioned at the beginning, but really is that decision as to whether or not what level of integrity it has. Because if you decide it has a lower level of integrity, as is analyzed in the staff report, then that first kind of recommendation of just shifting that western wall to be adjacent to not the south side of the building would pertain, and that's the motion that is on the table right now. Although if you find that through discussion, it has enough integrity, the alternative recommendation and the alternative recommendation calls for that setback of the vestibule to have a greater amount of setback. And so the motion would just need to be amended in order to go that route. But I think the first kind of consensus needs to be, what is that level of integrity? And then what recommendation of those two, based on that, is kind of where we'll go. Did that help or make it even less clear? Okay.
Could I suggest one thing? If possible, I think we would be willing to accept an approval with the condition that we slide the vestibule slightly. We looked at it just preliminarily here on the plans. I know 4 inches doesn't seem like a lot, but what if we went 12 inches, roughly to where the line of that dimension line is, right there? Yeah, you see the 7-foot dimension, and you see that dimension line right there? So that would be now the west side of the vestibule, and we would take that line past the corner and return it back to the building on the inside, right there. Yep, and the whole vestibule, it's gonna narrow up that bar space, but we still feel like we could furnish it adequately. It would solve the entry problem. and it would maintain visually more of the corner that everyone seems to be concerned about. And actually, keep in mind, this vestibule is transparent. So when you walk into the vestibule, you're gonna be able to see the whole building returning, okay? It's all glass. It's not like we're talking about any solid walls here. This is like a greenhouse structure, okay? Very transparent. So at night, when it's lit up and the sconce is on, you're gonna see that whole building, okay? So I think you really need to think about the context. I think we're getting a little hung up. I respect completely what you're saying. But I mean, we're willing to compromise and make this happen. You know, we just would like to not have to go back in front of the board. I think, you know, the time is of the essence for Eric and Rachel. They have a business, they have a going concern. We're trying to get this thing approved so we can get it built and they can start, you know, seating people out there. So, you know, we're gonna make it look really good. But I think that might be a compromise, that I think we could accommodate dimensionally. Do you feel like you guys can make that work, I mean, dimensionally? But, yeah, I just, you know, we think this is a great addition to Main Street and so anyway, I just wanted to throw that out, because I don't think it's really right that we should have to wait another 30 to 60 days to get back in front of the board to move something. I mean, I would argue that you're gonna see the integrity of the front of that building, especially from the corner where most people approach it straight on, or, I mean, they come around the parking lot too, but that transparency is a big design element in my opinion. So thank you.
Will you give us a number of inches that you'll quote to so that we could potentially make a motion and approve?
12 inches.
12 inches?
That's a lot better than 4, so. Yeah, actually, I remember some of those big GI Joes. Anyway, thank you.
Okay, we do have to, oh, sorry, Atassi.
No, just a note, the current way that the resolution is written does account for whether it's 4 inches or 12 inches, but we can specify within the resolution that it be 12 inches. Currently, it just says maintain symmetry of the front facade by placing the structure adjacent to the east side of the filling station porch as opposed to the south side. So, you know, if we wanted to, right now, it would accommodate both 4 inches and 12 inches, but we would not need to necessarily amend the current resolution, the current motion as it stands. We could just specify in our discussion that we would like for it to be 12 inches, and then the appropriate paperwork drawings can be amended to show that in the COA.
All right, so do we want to discuss 12 inches? How do we feel about 12 inches?
I think 12 inches is a good solution.
I feel a lot better about 12
I
inches.
think it still retains the corner. I don't even really think you have to bring it in so far before you can come back in, so I mean, that's just a minor point, but,
There's a medallion on the side.
right. But 12 inches is what I would agree
And
to.
I do think the comment about it being a transparent wall as well, to be able to really see that corner, was helpful too, so thank you.
It's a very important corner.
All right, are we ready to vote on 12 inches? Oh,
So to clarify, we don't need to redo the motion? Okay, thank you.
The current resolution or the current motion on the floor will cover both
Great.
4 and 12, however
Thank you.
the commissioners decide.
But we will, at some point, specify 12 inches.
mhm.
That sounds good.
Yeah, it sounds like we have a consensus for 12.
Correct. One of the, if the commissioners so choose, one of the additional, if you wanted to amend it, we can just request that the COA be amended to reflect the 12 inches. However, that's going to need to happen anyways because of the discussion tonight. And so
Okay.
that's something that staff can confirm.
All right, are we ready for a vote? Okay.
So I just hit the pause.
It may not be working.
I can't see that
The
far.
vote is 7 in favor, the motion carries.
All right.
Wendy, for what it's worth, Mr. Honey's voting machine is not responding. So, but, oh, it did give, it. Okay. I see, okay.
Okay, great. Yeah, thank you. I'm excited for this. I'm excited to see it. All right, so we'll move on to the comments and reports section. Sarah, do you have any reports for us?
No, not a lot. The Arts and Culture Master Plan, and I can send out a link to this website. The engagement is running through the end of December, so if you want to take a look at that website and either provide comments kind of directly through there, or if you have any comments, you can pass them to me and I can get them to the correct people. But just kind of as a heads up, that engagement's still going on, so if anyone wants to take a look at it and provide any comment, feel free. And I did meet with the consultant and spoke, and just made sure to note that absolutely understand that HP Historic Preservation is definitely part of the arts and culture kind of within Littleton, and the HPC is definitely in support of those recommendations, and they also likewise understand that culture and historic preservation all kind of go together, so definitely on the same page there. Yeah.
Great, thank you.
That's all I have.
Wendy or Tassi?
No comments, thank you.
Just to note that we will have a meeting October 21st, because we have something that's coming back before you, and a study session.
Okay, thank you. Board members, any updates for the group? All right, no updates from me. So I will adjourn the HPC meeting at 7:36. We're going to take a 10-minute break, and then we'll be back for a study session.
minutes. I can do that one too.
So I'm gonna go ahead and open the study session at 7:46 PM. We just have one topic on the study session, which is our 5-year strategic plan and work plan. So Sarah, you wanna take it away?
Yeah. I'm not sure if this will show, but first, just kind of.
I'm gonna go up there and see if I can cancel. Oh,
That was not good.
Yikes.
Exciting. It's just me versus what's.
And what are we prepared for here? Is this like a marathon session or like, what are we?
Pretty, depends on y'all, pretty short potentially, if we're good with pretty much just deciding those action items tonight.
Okay.
That was kind of put into the chart, which I don't, if we can bring up, great, if we can't, then we can
So
talk
we should
through.
pull up draft work plan.
You wouldn't mind if you can, not
I
sure.
forgot my iPad, so I'm gonna have to.
No, it's
can
totally
share.
fine.
Always look at the screen.
Kimberly and I are
do you want me to,
the
do you want me to go
See?
up there and cancel? I don't know if I'm allowed. Can I go up there and see if I can cancel or close the meeting? Okay. I don't know if I did that, that's probably my fault.
Yes. This is the right one. Who's in this?
So if I can't see the work plan, that means either I don't have to do anything or you're gonna give me all the dumb stuff.
Your goal is to come out with no action items. If you have no paper to write action items on,
There you go.
then you can't.
There, I can't help you.
We're gonna, I think, switch it back.
Kim, is that a Cameo ring?
This guy?
Yeah.
No, it's fossil magnetite.
Oh
Sorry.
my.
Really? Yeah,
From where?
it is from.
Yeah, put it back, we can use this one instead, there's just a better document on my computer
But,
that I didn't realize we
Sure,
did.
sure.
It's a local silversmith that made it.
Oh, okay.
That's so cool. Isn't that pretty?
Wow.
I love it.
That is beautiful. I love this. But from a distance, I thought it was a Cameo ring.
Oh, yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, that's a local silversmith, Dina Mann.
Oh, really?
Mhm.
I guess first question, any issues with the objectives? We kind of added a couple, rewrote things, I think a little bit based on
Here, I do.
y'all's
Yes, please.
I
comments.
just read through this a little bit while we.
Why don't we can put it here.
Sure.
Do you ever get vibes from it?
To get them.
Feel like stomping?
Other agenda for the
So just to recap, you went away
Your tusks.
with what we had told you, and you came back with a plan based on that feedback.
Yeah,
So that's
so
what
came
we're
back with the 1-year work plan, because we mostly reached consensus, I believe, on the objectives and the goals, with the kind of tweaks that we discussed at last meeting, and then from those comments, yeah, created them.
Fossil, ivory and stuff like that, and fossil walrus ivory from the Northwest.
There's more on this side if I
So,
can
yeah.
Can I just hit this?
That should dry in a second.
Come on,
Okay.
or it's blinking at least.
When it stops blinking, you can hit it, and then it should work.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep. Stops blinking, and then I'll hit it.
Did it stop blinking or it's
Not yet.
See that it's.
It didn't hear me apparently.
There we go.
No. Oh,
Okay,
yes.
this is
No.
close.
Getting
Oh, it's a
close.
thing.
Like little.
Stop blinking.
Looks like those beach
Yeah.
Still blinking.
Yeah.
Try clicking. There's a little message in the lower left. Please open the Click Share Drive. Now it went away. That's a good sign.
She actually, it was a raw stone. She was the one. And then, did that silversmith.
Looking for the email.
So she, it was just a raw material. And she did all that, the lapidary work.
It's the second document in the same email.
I was saying something about opening the application. I don't know.
Inches to the stone.
Oh, there we go. There were more.
But yeah.
There you go. There.
Lynn, thank you so much.
All right,
Goodness.
up and running.
Later. Great, okay, so these are the objectives that we came to. I can read through them, or if you just wanna skim over a quick
Let's go
Any-
straight to the plan.
plan. Great.
Otherwise, we'll relitigate all that stuff.
Yeah, so I put just a few kind of for each category noted on here. It does have the goal that we have kind of done, the objective that it pertains to, and then the action item. And there can be multiple action items for an objective. As you see, there's a couple little blanks here. So again, this is going to be for the end of this year through next year. So it's a little, that's why it'll say
So calendar year 25.
yes. Yep. And so that first one is looking, since Littleton Boulevard sub-area plan will be kicking off next year, wanted to make sure that that one was put up there, and then really looking at that input on the goals and recommendations for the plan. HP is a major component of it. Should not really include funding for this component. There's funding for the plan, but not through y'all. Primary party would be just your feedback. Staff will probably bring in the consultant, or we'll ask the questions, but for the most part, you're gonna be the ones adding that kind of information. And likely, I just kind of put it as all of next year. It could come up periodically. Looking at properties, or districts for local designation, looking at kind of that need and feasibility of a survey plan. We have a little bit of a grant and potentially some ARPA funding to kind of look at updating some surveying, doing surveying. There was an app, I believe, that we're still trying to figure out where that still lives. So that's kind of more, this first part's gonna be mostly staff. Me just kind of doing that research and bringing you all the updates. And then once, if we end up doing the survey updates, staff and y'all's availability as needed could always help, depending on kind of how we go about that. And that would likely be next year. I did through the whole year in case we start at the beginning, or you can kind of shift, but that one's a little bit more broad. And then this is kind of a gimme since we've technically kind of done it, but the Arts and Culture Master Plan one, wanted to put that on there just to show that we are doing this as part of it. And this is kind of how that objective, for long-range city plans and projects, providing that input. So that's a great opportunity. And then assessing the code, reviewing the chart, determine if any updates are beneficial. I think this is something that could be done on a yearly basis almost, or just kind of as we feel fit, or as we see fit, and as things kind of grow and change. But kind of put that as beginning of next year. And we can shift that if we don't think that's as high of a priority. And then understanding cost and feasibility for the plaques or neighborhood signage. That seems like a relatively, you guys were really interested in it. It is a little bit more of that, I wouldn't say low-hanging fruit, but it's definitely something that we can start to look into that could be, yeah, could be feasible to kind of start and kind of set up that ongoing program maybe. This one could potentially have funding. Right now, I think it was just kind of more understanding the cost and the feasibility is more of that kind of research based. So I don't necessarily have that, and then option to add implementation. That was kind of, if we want to keep that one in there, we could start implementation for next year if we wanted to, or depending on, or that could be also shifted to the next year. Not everything has to happen that we put on here, but having a shorter list makes it slightly more feasible than most things could happen. So that's why that one's kind of as an option. And then looking at maybe potentially doing quarterly study sessions to look at those kind of educational topics. Y'all have mentioned getting a little bit more info about the Secretary of Interior standards, how that applies. Maybe having our building official come in, or at least provide me with information to give y'all in terms of how life safety starts to play, because I know that there's been some questions about that, and just any other topics that y'all might have. It could also even be something that, say there's a recorded session that the state has put out. We could even do a study session where we watch that hour long and have any questions or comments and kind of do that. So it's really up to y'all in that regard. And there could be funding if we wanted to look at some of the paid training resources, but that was kind of what I thought in terms of payment or funding. And then holding a joint study session with city council. That is an announcement I could have made. Sorry about that. We are looking at doing a joint, study session on December 10th with city council. Really to talk about, we've also are sending, they're having all of the boards and commissions send a kind of written update, kind of semi-annual report to city council, which I've drafted, and Paige, thank you for getting back to me on that one. Just kind of noting what we've done thus far, what is our plan. I think we're gonna be talking a lot about the work plan probably at that joint session. So kind of doing this, as I said, kind of the almost yearly, kind of that likely gonna be Q4 of each year maybe. And I think city council also wants to kind of do that on a more regular or annual basis with their boards in general. So it's a great opportunity to already have a council that's so, kind of wants to know more about their boards and commission, and especially HPC. And then some of our ongoing activities wanted to make a note of because, there we go. That I wanted to make a note of to kind of show that we're doing more than just this. We have the continual review of the C of As, of the tax credit, as well as local designations. We also always have to have at least one educational kind of opportunity or training that's attended to maintain our CLG status. So that's always good to kind of keep on there. And so I can add more if there's other kind of ongoing activities we do or y'all do kind of think what we have on there, or we can just leave it at this. So I guess my question right now for you guys is does it seem like there's a priority that's missing? Do you want to add anything, change any of the date ranges? I tried to have it a bit spread out. I don't think there's technically anything specifically for Q3 25, although there are things that could go the whole year. So, thoughts?
Clarification
Yes.
question before we get into feedback. Under assess the code, major and minor alterations chart. For those of us who are newer, what is the major and minor alterations chart?
Yeah, so the major and minor alterations chart has essentially 3 columns of does not require a C of A, can be a staff-approved C of A, which would be a minor alteration, and then a major alteration, which would be something that is brought to HPC. So the things that tend to fall under doesn't need a C of A is repair, in-kind replacement of non-historic materials, certain changes to just minor things. Painting a building that's already been painted wouldn't require a C of A. Your minor stuff is going to be changes to like accessory structures, things that aren't on primary facades or kind of seen from right of way as much. These kind of smaller ones tend to be staff done. And then things like the additions that we've been seeing, that comes to y'all.
So the action item is for us to look at that chart again to see if it reflects this commission's point of view.
Yep, so kind of following, does it fit with what y'all wanna do? Also, does it fit kind of with best practices that are,
Sure.
of right now? I would say it is much more common than it used to be to have this kind of division of some of its administrative staff, and then some of it does, these bigger projects go to the HPC. It's kind of recognizing that as important as historic preservation and local designation is in a community, it is an extra regulatory step that some residents will have to go through. And it's an important step, but is there a way to kind of mitigate some of that time and effort that gets put into it? To kind of the point that was made tonight, this is at least 2-month process practically for an application. So that's kind of where that balance is. So we just kind of want to make sure that we're reviewing that it still fits in the community, and especially as we start doing some of these, like I think it could come out some with the Littleton Boulevard kind of engagement in terms of whatever those comments are about designation along Littleton Boulevard and those concerns. We can also start to kind of use some of that feedback as it comes up from residents to kind of, it's a balance of making sure our residents are satisfied and are happy with it so that the preservation program continue to grow, and what makes sense from the standpoint of making sure that we are upholding kind of preservation best practices and really making sure that we are preserving that character. So it's a lot of balance. So that's kind of where, it was a very long explanation as to what that chart is, but
But first of all, this is pretty magical that you were able to take all of our hand waving.
Yes.
I'm really
It's like,
Yeah, we've had a couple.
So this is really amazing.
Agreed.
Yeah, I really like what I see. And also on just internal development, educational opportunities. One is the CPI that's coming up in January or February.
Yeah, it's always right at that cusp of
Yeah.
end of January, beginning February.
What does CTI stand for?
Colorado Preservation, Inc. And it's the Saving Places Conference.
Got it.
And it's gonna be
Oh,
in
you've talked
Colorado
about this
Springs this
before.
year. And it's also online. You can watch from the comfort of your couch. And we usually get funding for it to go, to send.
Send a handful of folks.
Yeah, and I just cannot recommend it enough, so.
Yeah, I've gone to a couple different state conferences. It's probably the most well put together that I've attended in terms of hitting your kind of standard preservation topics, but also looking and exploring a few other kind of as the field evolves and changes kind of thing. It's a really interesting conference. I would also say, and I can send these out to y'all, because I don't know if you're on a mailing list, or maybe I can get y'all added to a mailing list. The Certified Local Government Program. Littleton is a certified local government. They do periodically, once a month, training sessions or just kind of workshops or discussions, and those also count for our CLG status. We just gotta put that into a report. And it's a really minimal thing. It's like one person has to attend a single training. So I think if we do the conference, we're already above and beyond that goal. But there's definitely a few opportunities, and I can send those out or have our mailing list added to it to make sure that you guys also get those
That would be interesting.
workshops and discussions.
Yeah, I know I'd be interested in that.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
And the CLG ones are actually super informative, they're really good. And I think they're online or they've videoed them and put them online. But
And I can look that up and see if, and send those out. Lindsay Flewelling at the state, who came to I think the first city session I was at, she's really, really fantastic CLG coordinator and does a lot. So she's a really great resource.
Looks like maybe next year's conference is not scheduled yet. I'm not seeing it online.
Okay, normally it's, I wanna say October, November is when they start putting out, I wanna say information.
But are we all agreeing that CPI should go on our action item?
Yes,
So,
somebody should go to see.
yeah, so I have it as an ongoing, but I can put maybe in parentheses, kind of an e.g., the CLG training session, CPI conference, any of the maybe National Alliance Preservation Commission stuff. I can put a few kind of specifics if you would like me to do that. But I think it's a good one to have as the ongoing, kind of showing we are not only here for this meeting, you guys are also looking at kind of having that continued education and training and doing those extra steps.
Agreed. But I would shift the emphasis away from doing it just to maintain CLG status, which is how you have it sort of structured in. I mean, it's really about to be a high-quality commission.
To be better historic
Yeah.
preservation.
And I would say
pretty awesome.
to build on that, if we do go to a continuing education class or a conference, it might be nice at a study session just for whoever goes to that to just do a 5-minute, just,
Book report.
yeah, exactly, just to let everybody else know and share the knowledge. I think that would be great.
And I think if we ever do any of the scholarships through the state, that is also technically a requirement of it, is to kind of
Share.
share back
Yeah.
what the information that y'all learned.
And it's,
And I'll also always be happy to do that as well.
one of the things that's awesome is that the people who attend it are other preservation commissions from around the state. So you get to hear
others.
everything that everyone's dealing with, and you can, just really learn a lot from that. And also see really innovative things that,
That's the
years
really
and
cool
years
part.
ago, it was like activating alleys. I mean, who would have thought? But, in Fort Collins, I mean, wow, it's like a city in their alleys. It's great.
That's great.
Yeah, so I will make that shift. I like the phrase to be a high quality kind of commission. I'll flesh it out, make it sound a little bit clearer, but I think that makes sense. Any other concerns in terms of timeline, anything that you think needs to be shifted around? I would say I put the plaque one in Q2 just because of kind of my capacity for stuff coming up. But if someone is like really gung ho and wants to do that research, we can shift it forward. I just may not be as much assistance at that point.
I think Q2 sounds fine. I mean, I feel like time goes by so quickly anyway, right? Q2 is gonna be here before we know it.
Absolutely.
Good work, so.
Yeah, this is really great. Thank you.
No, you guys have gave a lot of feedback, which just makes this way easier. I guess my kind of next question is how would you like this kind of package together, essentially? There's some where it's gonna be just as simple, like, here's the goals, here's the objectives, here's the work program. It's not necessarily a super fancy document, but it's a very usable.
Fancy.
Okay, and there's others that have a little bit more of like, here's the background of the HPC program and timeline, and a little bit more kind of pretty looking document. It just depends on kind of how we're wanting to use it. And this may be something too that like if city council wants us to put it on the website kind of thing, maybe then
Do like an
we can
executive
make it
summary
look.
to go with it.
Yeah.
Well, and I mean, if we do, I think this is great, you know, just for us to work off of, but hopefully some of that work is already done if city council or if, you know, it's decided that we need to do that. I mean, we have a pretty good website on the city, so I think we could probably pull a lot of information from there, so
Oh,
you don't have to
absolutely.
reinvent the wheel.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, we can make it look kind of like a final document thing, or kind of have this as our notes that we bring up and kind of as part of as periodically needed kind of stuff.
And then is the plan to go over, to review it periodically, within the board and say, okay, how are we doing here? How are we doing
Yep.
there? Do we want this anymore?
Yeah, pretty much. So we would, and that's something that we can decide on if you would like to do kind of a quarterly review, maybe twice a year or just once a year. I don't think more than quarterly is really needed. Now what we can do is either through study session or maybe the kind of, towards the end, my part where staff has announcements or anything, I can maybe bring up and say, hey, we have this item on for this quarter. Are y'all still good with prioritizing that for this time frame? And if not, we can shift that as needed. I also see as Littleton Boulevard plan gets completed, as we move towards potentially doing the full preservation plan, that's also where some of the changes will come into play, in terms of kind of amending potentially the objectives. I don't see the goals changing a ton, but the objectives could start to change and that would affect the work program. Yeah, great.
Great.
Cool, well, if y'all are pretty much good with this, I don't think we would need another study session. So that October study session can go away if you wanted to. Unless there's another topic that you guys would like to discuss, which I'm happy to do.
Yeah.
Is there?
No. Oh, go ahead.
No, that was my question, is there, like, do you wanna keep it and have a discussion learn about something, or what do you wanna do?
Learn about roofs or windows or.
I'm interested,
Yeah.
like, I would be happy to, because we're already here, so tacking on a study session is not that bad. So I would love to learn about something,
Yeah.
because, yeah, go ahead.
Well, my suggestion is, since we do have several new members, I wonder even just an overview of what all happens before a COA comes to us. Like just like your process, what do you talk about with applicants? Just so we kind of know what's happened up until we get it.
Okay. Wonderful idea, like the whole path,
Yeah.
you know, I love that.
To amplify that great idea, we've seen a number of applicants for COAs come through now with this commission. And a wide variety, I'll say, of preparation that went into it, not your preparation, but the applicant's preparation. And so this, if, like Paige described, if you could sort of open the door and say, this is what it looks like, we would get a better perspective on what makes it look like tonight's look versus other applicants. And how do we get more applicants looking like tonight?
Gotcha. Okay, yeah.
Great idea.
100%.
A session on windows probably.
Yeah, windows is good. Like, and
I would love
mullions
to
and
learn
the
about
sashes and
Yeah.
the, yeah.
All that
Threw out
vocabulary
hip.
that Chris has.
Someone threw out, was it you who threw out hip?
Well, I
Yeah,
was the
you
second
did.
person to do it.
Oh.
Somebody, I'm like,
Who
That's
first
what
Oh,
said
no,
that?
Sarah's, no, I didn't,
They
I
hit
definitely.
through.
I think I noted that it was a hip,
I think it was
Yeah.
Sarah.
Oh.
and then I'm
but-
like, that's what that is.
yeah. So that is one thing I maybe can double check with y'all. The kind of balance of architectural terms. I come from a relatively high architecture background in terms of like how I talk about things. Is it helpful to use those terms but explain them, or use simpler terms if needed? And it could just be a layman's term because this is also a public document.
I'd like you to use the actual term and,
Yeah.
but with a thumbnail explanation.
Yeah.
For those of us who are lay people.
That's
Yes,
perfect.
yeah.
muttons and mullions.
Right.
Kind of do a footnote definition
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
of, cool, okay, I can
It
do that.
can be important sometimes,
No.
just wait.
Hey, someone told me about the
We have
buttons
an
versus the
actual
mullions.
architect
Yes.
sitting right here.
Yeah.
Yes.
Maybe we
We're
could draft
counting
him
on
into
you.
service.
Pull out the books, this is a hip roof.
We're counting on you.
Yeah, we can also do stuff like that,
I'm gonna try to put together
Yeah,
a
I find that
presentation for December, because in November I'm going to Taliesin, Scottsdale.
Wow.
So, I'll take a lot of photos, I guess we can bring them up on the screen, and I'll show you
Cool.
Taliesin.
Great, awesome.
Great, Sarah.
Well, I don't have anything else. That was a pretty quick one. You guys definitely made this process. I've done this before with another commissioner.
Well, you're
You
very
guys were
gracious.
so much easier. So thank you.
Feedback,
This
thank
is
you.
fabulous.
Wow.
Perfect. Well, then I will go ahead and adjourn the study session at 8:13.
Thank you, Fearless Leader.
Thanks. It's a record.